Welcome back. How have you been holding up this week? It's been a tough one, right? There's so much going on in our everyday lives, and some of you may be feeling just a little heavy. And not only do you need some self-care, but maybe some soul care can give you a little boost. It's Self-Care Saturday on BNC, and I spoke to the founder and CEO of Soul Care for Black Clinicians, LaTanya Tolan, to break down all you need to know to get your soul in check. LaTanya Tolan, thank you so much for joining us for Self-Care Saturday.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, you know, LaTanya, we talk about self-care and mental health every week right here on our show. So we know the importance of self-care, but we rarely touch on those other things, right? So tell us all about what it means to do soul care and why it is so important to implement into your routine.
Right. So soul care is really important. I define soul care as truly living authentically and listening intently to your spirit and making a commitment to not go against whatever your spirit is telling you, whether it's something that you need to do, whether it's a feeling that you have about something, just really, really trusting your spirit and letting it guide you.
And so why is it so important for you to make sure you do soul care? I mean, people don't often think about what that means internally. So talk about that.
Right. So I think really it's so important for a multitude of reasons, right? So firstly, because when you don't follow your spirit and you go against something that you know you feel very strongly about, it just doesn't feel good. Right? We talk about having regrets, being mad at yourself, you know, could be depression, it could be an anxiety, a number of different things that you could experience by really not following yourself. And so that's super important. Your spirit is there to guide you and your soul is there to feel good. Like that's our job every day, is to feel good.
And it just reminds me of the saying that happiness is an inside job. So you talk about how does soul care force you to kind of ask yourself some tough questions internally, and how do we actually practice it?
Right, that's good. So I think really asking yourself questions internally is something that should happen all the time. I feel like we always should be in a place where we are wanting to excel and be better and really looking at how we can just do things differently in order to really be who we say we are, right? Show up authentically as we say we are, right? So not really just talking about it, but being about it. And when people ask me, like, what does soul care look like? I always say it's different for everybody. You know, I think that it starts off with, again, like I said, being in touch with your spirit and whatever that means to you. And for me, it really starts off with being in touch with my spirituality. You know, and listening to that and following God and just going forth and doing what I need to do, not battling that, not questioning that. And sometimes we question what we feel in our spirit, or some people call it their intuition, because we're afraid of something. You know, we might be afraid to be better. We might be afraid to disappoint somebody. We might be afraid that what we know we need to do may not feel good to or for us. But ultimately, following that is going to be key to being at peace.
Yeah, and peace is so important. So what does a soul care routine look like? What is good practice?
So good practice, in my opinion, is really having, like I always call it a soul care plan, right? Soul care routine, regimen, whatever you want to call it. And so for me is every morning I get up, I have my meditation and my prayer time. People sometimes don't know the difference. So in my life, prayer is praying to God, right? And meditation is listening. So really just taking the time to be quiet and listen. Often our lives are so busy, we can't even hear our own thoughts, right? So really starting with that, from that place, and then going forth for whatever else was good to you. It might be a workout, it might be reading, you know, whatever else was good for you. But I really believe it starts with being intent with your spirituality and then with your own spirit.
We talked a lot about self-care and soul care in this segment, but talk about what is your self-care tip and soul care tip of the week?
Okay, so that's good. So my self-care tip would be to get out and get some vitamin D. You know, really get out and let the sun hit you and just enjoy yourself, hang out with somebody that you know, keep your mask on, of course, but just get out and get some vitamin D and have a good time. That's my self-care tip of the week. My soul care tip of the week would be to sit somewhere with yourself in a quiet space, just really listen to your thoughts, have a journal next to you and write down whatever those thoughts are and follow up with those thoughts during this week.
And it's very helpful to be able to do that, right?
Yes, for sure. For sure. We have these thoughts and feelings for a reason, so we need to follow through.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of your advice, LaTanya. We appreciate you for joining us for Self Care Saturday.
Thank you for having me.